The Institute of Spiritualist Mediums wishes to thank the Spiritual Truth Foundation for the making of this tape. Question: has there ever been as good communication between the spirit world and this earth as there has been through spiritualism? It has been in bursts of inspiration which have been occasional but not sustained. Now it is organised, harnessed, controlled, regulated. It is all part of one vast plan. A plan that is far more coordinated than you can ever realise. The organisation that is behind communication is massive and worked out in masterly detail. It has all been arranged. When it was decided to open the doors of the spirit world, it was done deliberately, so that once the doors were opened, they could never be closed again. Service through mediumship. You have the inestimable privilege of giving a service that nobody else, not being similarly gifted, can render in your world. Your heart should rejoice to overflowing at the wonderful opportunities presented to you almost daily. But remember that knowledge always brings responsibility. Never forget that you are entrusted not only with a sublime truth, but with a sublime power, a divine power, the power of life itself, with all that it possesses. To help generate and vitalize is a great responsibility. You will not be led astray. You will always be shown the way. Go forth. Each day brings your wonderful opportunities to serve that should enable you to have an exhilaration of spirit. Religion. Question: I get very depressed with dogmas and organised religion, yet I find some goodness in the church. Let us begin at the beginning. Your church, like every other church, temple, synagogue and chapel, owes its existence to the fact that in days gone by the power of the Spirit descended into your world. It was accompanied by what are called signs and wonders, and sometimes miracles. The power of the Spirit came as a challenge to the beliefs, the doctrines, the dogmas of that day. The power of the Spirit gave evidence of its divine origin in that its beneficence was demonstrated in healing the sick, in giving guidance, and in stressing the fundamental principles of life, that matter is a shell and spirit the reality. But alas, the pages of your history show that all such outpourings lasted for only a short while. Gradually, theologians took control, and the mind of man devised teachings which replaced revelations that were divine. Sterility superseded revelation. Again and again there have been some outpourings of the Spirit accompanied by signs and wonders, and what were believed miracles, and the process was constantly repeated. Question: would you define what you mean by religious tolerance? Cannot your teachings be called dogmatic and intolerant, that the universe is controlled by natural law, that this law is perfect and immutable? I have never made any claim to infallibility. I am a human being like you, expressing truths which should appeal to your reason. There is no implicit threat that if you reject them you will be subject to any punishment. All we say is that this is truth, and we have found it. We offer it to you for your examination. If it measures up to that strict examination, accept it. If not, reject it. How else shall we win? With offers of reward or punishment? No, we must win by love, by common sense, and by finding that we can meet on common ground. Question: is your philosophy for the masses? Would it not be better for them to have some of the simpler forms of religion, such as the earlier Christians taught, for example, the doctrines of redemption? Is it not that doctrine more useful today, rather than some of the teachings that people like yourself give? I would deny the very basis of the question. I affirm that the teachings of the Spirit is for the multitude. I assert that it is the simple truth which the multitude can understand, assimilate, and prize, and that it will provide them with all that they require in the name of religion. The test of all teaching is simple. Is it true? No other standard matters. The other teachings to which reference has been made have failed to gain increasing support because they are not true. An instance is offered of the belief in redemption. None can redeem you. You must redeem yourself. None can bear upon his shoulders the responsibilities of your life. None can absolve you from the sins that you have committed. None can interfere or alter the law of cause and effect, which operates with inexorable precision. Question: is it desirable that there should be a fusion of what we know as spiritualism and orthodoxy? All this is but a question of words. I am not interested in titles, labels, and classifications. I am interested in the spread of truth. Whatever helps to spread truth, to free mankind, to equip the children of the Great Spirit for the life that awaits them, and enables them to live worthy of their divine heritage while they are on earth, whatever achieves that has my blessing and the blessings of every enfranchised soul. I'm not concerned with what is called spiritualism or what is called orthodoxy, for these terms are too general and their classification leads to confusion. I am concerned with individuals striving to find light, seeking to unfold their innate divinity, so that they can help all those who are less fortunate than themselves. It is easy enough for every individual to do the best they can with the gifts that he possesses, and to know day by day that he has served the Great Spirit and his children to the best of his ability. Bible. Question: is there a lot of truth in the Bible? It is a mixture of divine truth and man's falsification. Orthodoxy. Iniquity of orthodoxy. Question: why are so many of the lives, deaths, and resurrections of figureheads of religion, including the Christian religion, similar to those of the mythological gods whose lives were based on the phenomena of nature, such as the solar system and the seasons? It is because the children of earth have always borrowed from the myths of ancient times in order to invest their leaders with supernatural powers. They did not understand the operation of natural laws. They wanted the one whom they considered to be the greatest of all to be endowed with attributes beyond the reach of the other children of the Great Spirit. And so they have borrowed from one another. But that does not affect the teaching which was given by the messengers of the Great Spirit, who, each in his own day, reflected some of the truth, wisdom and love of the Great Spirit. Question: is it an accident that these lives do, according to their followers, follow the course of nature, many of the recorded incidents in their lives being suggestive of natural law, such as resurrection following death, as the spring follows winter? If you mean the story in the Bible that when the Nazarene was crucified there was great thunder and lightning, that is not true. If you mean that all those who die, as your world calls it, return, that is true. I understand the question to refer to the additions to the historical lives of the messengers of the Great Spirit. Question: what is the sin against the Holy Ghost? The sin against the Holy Ghost is to deny the Holy Ghost. Question: what is the Holy Ghost? It is the power of the Spirit which descends into the world of matter. Your churches worship it in the abstract, but they reject it when it descends on millions all over the world, for it is that power which we use to commune with you. It is that power of the Great Spirit which enables, even for a short time, the world of spirit and the world of matter to become one in harmony of purpose. Question: I have been told that baptism in any denomination has as its object that when a spirit passes over, a band of spirits belonging to that denomination receive it and care for it until it is adjusted to the new conditions. If this is so, what happens to non-baptized souls? The power that set the universe in motion, the spirit that breathed into a body the breath of life and made it a living soul, the Great Spirit who is responsible for all the worlds, for all the laws of the universe, the Great Spirit who is expressed in life in all its varying degrees, the Great Spirit who has been revealed throughout all the ages by all the seers and the instruments, the Great Spirit who is within all, the Great Spirit who is behind all, is not troubled whether a man has sprinkled water or not. What does matter is whether the life has been lived in accordance with his highest ideals. The laws cannot be cheated because a few drops of water are sprinkled on a baby. The laws cannot be altered, for effect always follows cause. Question: has not Christianity produced plenty of good men? They would have been good just the same whether they were Christians or not. Question: but are not some good because they try to follow the teachings of Jesus? When your world emulates the Nazarene, a new chapter will have begun in history. It has not happened yet. I do not see any signs of it. Do not speak to me of Christians whose lives mock the one they profess to serve. Did not the Nazarene say, Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father is in heaven. Question: are there not thousands of Christians who believe the creeds superficially and who yet live very good lives and who are unselfish? They are not good Christians, they are bad Christians. But good men remember this: every creed fetters the soul. Men are not good because of creed, but in spite of creed. In the name of creed they have killed one another, and they have burned one another. Anything which binds, which cramps the soul, which prevents it from having full expression, must be swept away. Question: was Jesus Christ God the Son, as the Church says, or was he an ordinary man with great mediumistic powers? The Nazarene was a messenger of the Great Spirit, who came into your world of matter in order to fulfill the mission of the Great Spirit. He fulfilled his mission on earth, but he has not yet fulfilled the rest of his mission, which is still being directed from the world of spirit. It is wrong to worship the Nazarene, for worship should be given only to the Great Spirit and not to his messengers. The Nazarene came into your world by fulfilling the natural laws which the Great Spirit had ordained, the same natural laws which all must fulfill in order to be born into your world. You cannot live, you cannot be born into your world, you cannot pass from your world into mine, except through the natural laws of the Great Spirit. Question: can you substantiate by reference to the Bible texts? My appeal is only to the laws of the Great Spirit. Those who rely on the crutches of words must be left until their souls can be awakened to an understanding that the Great Spirit is still at work, still inspiring, still revealing. His laws are still in operation, and his power can flow through instruments today if they will allow themselves to be used for the Great Spirit, as instruments were used many, many years ago. The Bible, as you call it, is a great book, but there is a greater Bible. It is the universe, which is sustained by the laws of the Great Spirit. From that you can learn far more than from any book in your world of matter, however great it may be, however respected it may be, however revered it may be. Question: where is Jesus now, and what is he doing? The Spirit that worked through the Nazarene is still at work, seeking to continue the work that it started 2,000 years ago. But that Spirit has been crucified 1,000 times since, and it is being crucified almost every day. But because that Spirit is part of the Great Spirit, it will continue to spread its influence wherever there are instruments who can work for the Great Spirit to bring peace and happiness to your world of matter. Question: when you speak of the Nazarene, do you mean the man Jesus or the spirit forces working through him? The man, but he has since evolved and there is now a far greater spiritual consciousness expressed through him than there was in the earthly incarnation. For the amount that he expressed then had to be in consonance with the limitations of his day. There has never been on earth anyone through whom the manifestation of the Spirit has been greater than through the Nazarene. There has never been any through whom the laws have revealed themselves at so great an intensity as the Nazarene. Question: not in 2,000 years? No, neither before nor since. That was the greatest manifestation of the Great Spirit that your world has yet received. But we do not revere the man as he incarnated on earth. We pay tribute to the power which operated through him. We recognize that the man is only entitled to respect in so far as he was the instrument for the power of the Spirit. Question: is the spirit world planning a further revelation by sending another teacher like Jesus? Different methods are being used to suit the different needs. You must remember that your world has become more complex, more interdependent, and more channels of communication have had to be opened. We have to meet with different temperaments and different habits, thoughts, ways and modes of life. Our message has to be adapted to natural environments and characteristics, to racial habits. It has to be given in the language and the limitations of a variety of people. But behind the focus of the power is the same driving force. Your Christian world pays its tribute to one who rose from the dead, who was seen after his death, who demonstrated that life continues beyond death. The Nazarene demonstrated that he was the same individual, and he gave as proofs in the materialized body the earthly marks of the crucifixion. After that, he revealed himself again. Your Christian world believes that, though it cannot prove it, but it says it was a miracle. We have returned through the same laws to demonstrate the life beyond death, to show that the Great Spirit is eternal and the operation of his laws immutable, that even as one was resurrected, so are all resurrected, because resurrection is a law of the Great Spirit of life. Creeds versus truth. It took 25 theologians 15 years to produce doctrine in the Church of England. In January 1938, Silver Birch was asked to comment on some extracts which were read to him. The resurrection of Jesus is an act of God, wholly unique in human history. Did it take 15 years to arrive at that conclusion? How true it is that those who betray the Nazarene are those who call themselves Christians. Resurrection is part of the law of life. Resurrection comes to every soul when it is resurrected from the body of matter when death arrives. Resurrection belongs to no one man. It belongs to all the children of the Great Spirit. For everyone in turn must pass through the portal of death leaving behind the body of matter, and begin a new life in the realm of spirit, in the body of spirit, which has been preparing itself all the time. The Nazarene did nothing contrary to the natural law. He came to fulfill the law, and all his actions and all his teachings were part of the law. Did he not say, "All these things shall ye do, and greater things than these shall ye do"? If you evaluate the Nazarene to so remote and inaccessible a place in the high heavens that no child of the Great Spirit can reach him, then you have destroyed the whole value of his mission. For the essence of the Nazarene's life was to demonstrate what could be achieved by all the children of the Great Spirit, if they would but allow the fullness of the Great Spirit to reveal itself in their lives. And when he passed to the world of spirit, he returned, as many before him, and as countless thousands have returned since. There is nothing unique in the universe, for the laws of the Great Spirit are always in operation, and the mere fact that anything has ever happened is proof of the existence of law. Another quote from the Church report: "Baptism, even infant baptism, is a means of deliverance from the domination of influences which predispose to sin. In the life of the unbaptized saint there is a defect. No priest possesses the power of magic to make water anything but water. Because a priest takes drops of water and sprinkles it on the brow of a child, he does not in any way do anything which affects the child's life, in your world or mine. These drops of water were drops of water before, and they were drops of water afterwards. The priest has no power to change their chemical constituents and to make them do something which is contrary to the law. The soul is unaffected by baptism, for none has the power to evolve your soul for you. That you must do yourself, by the quality of the life that you live in the world of matter. The effects of your actions cannot be removed by any other, but only by the compensation that you make and the retribution that you have to suffer. Saintliness has nothing whatsoever to do with baptism. Saintliness consists of allowing the Great Spirit to shine through your life, so that you achieve as much of the perfection in daily life as you can reach whilst you are in the world of matter. Here's another quote: "God could work miracles if he pleased, but the commission is divided as to whether or not miraculous events occur. Would they have been sure if they had deliberated for another 15 years? How piteous a spectacle! The blind leading the blind. These are your teachers, and they cannot tell you whether or not these things happened. There are no miracles. There have never been any miracles. There never will be miracles. The Great Spirit is the Great Spirit, and the laws of the Great Spirit are perfect in their operation. They were conceived by perfection. If the Great Spirit has to suspend the laws that perfection created, then chaos must result. If the Great Spirit has to interfere in the scheme of creation to provide for events which he has not foreseen, then the Great Spirit ceases to be perfection. The Great Spirit becomes imperfect. If the Great Spirit has to perform a miracle to bestow favours on some, then the Great Spirit is a partial deity and not the infinite Spirit of all life. Because they are ignorant of the higher laws, because they do not know the power of the Spirit, because they themselves are not touched by the power which comes from our realms, they cannot understand these happenings wrought through mediums, because they seem to think that events of the days of the Nazarene contradict what is known today of the physical laws. They are compelled to think of miracles, yet if they understood the operation of the laws of the Spirit, they would see that the Great Spirit is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and that his power is available and accessible to all who enables his gifts to be exercised in their lives. Another quote: "A miracle, if it occurs, is not a breach of order, but expresses the purpose of God, which also determines the order of nature. It is therefore nothing irrational or capricious." They do not understand that all the laws of the Great Spirit have always been in existence, will always be in existence. You only discover in your world of matter the operation of laws because through your inventions you are enabled to register some of the more subtle phases of universal life. But you have not created anything. You have only discovered that which always was in existence. It is impossible for something new to be created, for all that is part of creation already exists. Nothing can happen to contradict the laws of the Great Spirit, for all the laws already exist, whether you know of their existence or not. It is not necessary for the Great Spirit to create new laws, for all the laws are in existence. All that is necessary for the universe is here now, always has been, and always will be. The Great Spirit, being perfect, has foreseen all that is needed in every stage of existence. A further quote: "From the Christian standpoint, the Bible is unique as being the inspired record of a unique revelation. How dark are their minds! How they are engulfed in the inky blackness of superstition! How thick is the wall that surrounds them! How deeply they have entrenched themselves behind the fortress of superstition! Ever since your world of matter has been the world of matter, teachers have come to reveal the Great Spirit to his children. They have spoken the language of the day. The revelation was adapted to the demands of their day, to the country in which they lived, to the stage of growth and development of people. It had to be given in such a manner as it was capable of being understood, not too high so as to be beyond their reach, but always the process of evolution has been at work, and as the children of the Great Spirit have evolved and grown, so new teachers arose, new seers, new prophets, and new visionaries, each with his vision, his dreams, his prophecies, his message, his inspiration, his truth, his teaching, adapted to the needs of his day. There is no finality in revelation, for the Great Spirit is perfect. The revelation of today is in line with the revelation of yesterday. We do not deny the truths taught by the Nazarene. The Nazarene did not deny the truths taught by Moses. And those who will come after us in the world of your tomorrow will not deny the truths taught by us today. But because the children of tomorrow will be at a higher stage of evolution, the truth that is to be revealed to them must be more progressive than the truth that is revealed to you today. A further quotation. For him, the Christian, Christ is the one and the necessary mediator. Christ's access to the Father was direct. We have our access to the Father through him. No, the Great Spirit is within you. You are in the Great Spirit. The kingdom of heaven is within, taught the Nazarene. How little they know of their own Christian teachings. You are never separated from the Great Spirit. The Great Spirit is never separated from you. There is nothing you can ever do, no vile crime that you can commit of so degrading an intensity that can ever cut you off from the Great Spirit. The tie that binds you to the Great Spirit is imperishable, and therefore you can never be lost. You approach the Great Spirit direct as you learn to allow the Great Spirit to express himself in your lives. Each one of you has a portion of the Great Spirit, and you require nobody to stand between you and the Great Spirit of life. That was not the purpose of the Nazarene. He came to teach people how to live their lives, that the fullness of the Great Spirit may be expressed. Theology is the curse of the world of matter. It puts mankind in shackles. It puts his soul in prison. To be freed, he must learn to sever himself from all limiting creeds and restrictive dogmas, and to find the unfettered truth that comes in spiritual inspiration. The mind of man cannot exceed the inspiration of the Great Spirit. A further quote. The resurrection confirms man's hope of immortality. So much to learn, so much to learn. You live because you have part of the Great Spirit within you. Matter only exists because of Spirit. Spirit is the eternal reality. Spirit is indestructible, imperishable, immortal, infinite. You will live beyond the grave, beyond the fire of creation, because you are Spirit. Nothing in the world of matter, nothing in the realms of spirit can destroy the imperishable divinity which is yours, the great gift of life conferred on you by your entry into this world. Because you are Spirit, you live. Because you are Spirit, you survive the grave. Because you are Spirit, you will continue to live forever and forever. It has nothing to do with any teacher. It is part of your birthright, part of your heritage. They would seek to limit the Great Spirit the divine architect, the power which maintains the whole universe in all its multitudinous expressions. To what? To one being who lived for 33 years in the world of matter, and they would seek to restrict his bounty to those who espouse a creed? Oh no. They shame the meaning of the word religion. Did they but know it, they make the Nazarene weep tears of bitterness and sorrow, and they continue to crucify him. You are not the salt of the earth because you call yourselves Christians. You are not the salt of the earth because you belong to a church. You will not be judged in my world by the label you have worn on earth. Your championship of a creed will not matter. All that will be of any account is one thing: how much of the Great Spirit you have expressed whilst you were on earth. Another quotation from the Christian doctrine. Fundamental to the Christian doctrine of the atonement is the conviction that it is essentially the work of God, who in Christ reconciles mankind to himself. Is this a repetition of the old teaching of the atonement? Does it mean that a jealous and angry God has to be appeased by the blood sacrifice of the one he loved? Does it mean that the Great Spirit is more cruel and more heartless than any angry human being? Does it mean that the Great Spirit demands blood to be shed to reconcile himself with his children? How pitiable a conception is this of the Great Spirit and of the mission of the Nazarene. He was full of the love and mercy and gentleness of a loving Father. You are all placed in the world of matter to build your own characters and establish your own soul evolution. If you choose the path of selfishness, you must pay the price. If you choose the path of service, you receive the reward that comes in the growth of character. It is all fixed by the operation of law, and not even the greatest of the great teachers can alter the operation of those laws. All else is a doctrine of cowardice and injustice. If you have done wrong, be a man and pay the price. Do not attempt to shelve your responsibilities on the back of another. In our world, the saint, the altruist, has reached a higher level than the selfish man because his soul has grown much more. How else could it be? Could one man be selfish and reach, after what you call death, the same level as he who devoted his whole life to service? Is it thus that you would mock the Great Spirit and his perfect justice? Of course not. Life is what you make it, no matter what your sphere, no matter what your occupation, whether you be born of high or low parentage, whatever your rank or title, your colour or race or nationality, you all have opportunities for service. If you neglect them, you pay the price, and none can interfere. Let me finish by quoting the words of the Nazarene. That which a man sows, he must reap. Attitude to orthodoxy. Question. When dealing with the orthodox, is it better to be gentle or harsh? Speak the truth. Fear no man. You are a servant of the Great Spirit. Always refute evil. Always answer lies. Be fearless. Spiritualism. Question. Should people put orthodox religion behind them when they accept the tenets of spiritualism? I am not bothered with these labels. I am not so sure whether I am a spiritualist because I have not been confirmed. What you call yourself does not matter. We are concerned with the way you live your life. Religion, what is it? Is it going to church, synagogue, chapel or temple? Is it the acceptance of certain theological ideas devised by man? Is it calling yourself a Roman Catholic, a Protestant, a Buddhist, a Jew? Religion is living in a way that brings you closer to the Great Spirit. Religion is when the Great Spirit is expressed in your actions. Religion is service. If you find there are some people who have all the benefits of communication with our world, but still adhere to certain conventional theological beliefs, then be sorry for them. Say a silent prayer for them, because they are still only on the first rungs of the ladder, or are in the halfway stage. Religious leaders. Question. Should religious leaders who discover these spirit truths renounce their old orthodox outlook? We have enshrined personal responsibility as one of the supreme principles. Each soul is responsible for what it does. You cannot equivocate with the truths of the Spirit. As awareness comes, so the voice of conscience says what should be done. If it is accepted and recognized, then that soul must do what it implies. I will not condemn individuals because it is not right and proper for me to do so. Question. Will spiritualism ever become a universal religion? What you call spiritualism is but the name given to certain natural laws, their operation and their implications. To me, religion is the living of life, not the acceptance of certain sectarian beliefs. Question. Do you think that churches, chapels and synagogues perform any useful purpose? Some of them do, and some of them do not. Where those who are in church are amenable to the influence of the Spirit, albeit unconsciously, and they are vessels of inspiration, then they are able to be of great service, because they are used to spread light, knowledge, wisdom, and truth. Where in these houses of worship there is no inspiration, where sole reliance is placed on ancient formularies, or dead rituals and decayed creeds, where nothing is said except that which conforms to the strict letter of theology, then no service is being rendered. It is impossible to make generalizations, to indulge in sweeping condemnations, or to give wholehearted approval. Each must be examined on its merits, by virtue of the service it renders or fails to render. Healing. Pain. Question. I have just been in touch with a case of cancer. The pain is just beginning, and it does seem wrong. But pain can be alleviated. There are medical means of doing so, If pain is the problem, it can be dealt with. Even when conditions are intolerable, I must insist this is not the final verdict, so far as we are concerned. I would be false to everything that I teach if I said that the final verdict is to be given by those whose minds are restricted to one set scale of discipline. Cancer. Question. Do spirit doctors know the cure for cancer? There is no specific cure in the sense that there is one remedy that will cure every type of cancer, because they do not all owe their origin to the same cause. Some are physical, some are mental, and some are spiritual in their origin. It is not possible to treat them all alike. You must try to understand the way we work. It is not done by saying, your world has a problem, here is the answer. Your world must earn the answer. But if you have wrong living in your world, if you have the needless cruelty to which helpless animals are subjected, if you have not earned the right to be cured, then no one can give you a cure. What is done is twofold. Where patently sincere and devoted individuals are working along truly spiritual lines, they are helped automatically because they attract wiser beings who were in their field and who were desired to help them. The other method is by the outpouring of spirit power in healing, which produces results when the sufferer is ready to receive them. All healing from our world is accomplished through spirit power. It is not a magic wand that can be waved. That power is attracted to the soul of the sufferer. Therefore, it cannot induce a response until the soul is touched. There is no magnetic link until the soul is open. If it is closed in, it cannot make any contact. It also depends on other factors too. It depends on what is the cause of the disease. It depends on the purpose for which that soul is incarnated. It depends whether a choice has been made beforehand to express itself through a certain type of bodily mechanism. It is not a simple question. Euthanasia. Question. Why are people left on earth unable to do anything for themselves? For example, after a car accident, why cannot euthanasia be put into practice? It says somewhere in your Bible, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I quote these words because they are true. Life comes from the Great Spirit. You cannot create life, neither can you destroy it. You can provide the mechanism in which life will function. You can destroy that mechanism. But the gift of life is not yours. Life is the responsibility which is entrusted to you. When it comes to judgment, beware of making assessments based only on physical measurements. You cannot measure the spirit with a physical yardstick. Your natural pity, sympathy, mercy and compassion are aroused when you see an individual reduced to what you call a cabbage. But the cabbage has a life and a purpose to serve in your world, Otherwise it would not be there. A person is injured in an accident. His body is so mutilated that its machinery is not capable of giving the spirit the fullness of its expression. Do you regard this problem as physical or spiritual? Spiritually, there is a purpose to be served, a lesson to be learned, an experience to be undergone. Physically, it may all seem motiveless. But until you can see with the eye of the Spirit, until you can understand eternal scales of values, your judgments must of necessity be based on fallacies. I am completely and utterly opposed to killing these individuals, though the act is qualified by the motive for doing so. This, however, is not the answer. Once you entrust to others the decision as to when they shall kill, you are giving them a power they are all not capable of having, nor should they have the responsibility of this decision. Question: can euthanasia ever be right? This is a question I have answered before, and I am against it. I say no, not because I am indifferent or callous to suffering. You cannot live for long in our world without becoming increasingly sensitive to the pains of others. But I feel that the verdict of determining the end of the manifestation of life through a body should not be placed, generally speaking, in the hands of those who are woefully ignorant of spiritual truths, and who are not, unfortunately, experts as to what is and is not curable. Malformed babies. Unfair? Those who talk of unfairness are still thinking in terms of bodies, of a world of matter, and not of an infinite life. The spirit does not suffer from venereal disease. The spirit is not crippled or misshapen or bent. The spirit is not suffering from an hereditary traits or any of the acquired characteristics of the parent. These do not change the individual, although they do affect the body through which the spirit manifests itself on earth. Whilst you can quite possibly argue that, from the earthly point of view, looking at life solely from a material standpoint, the one who is born into a diseased body has a much worse time physically than the one born into a healthy body. Those opinions do not hold in regard to the spirit which is behind the body. You will not automatically be poorer in spirit because your body is diseased, and the richer in spirit because your body is healthier. Indeed, it can be argued that your spirit will be richer because you will have learned the many lessons of pain and suffering, which are all part of the equipment of the spirit in its essential evolution. Illness. Apparent injustices. Question: when a small child is stricken with a painful, incurable disease, wherein lies the cause, and is it just? You will not solve spiritual problems with material measurements. You cannot judge eternity by the portion of it that you experience in your very short earthly life. You cannot comprehend divine justice, which is ruled by infinite laws. When you see only one infinitesimal fragment of life at work, how can the lesser comprehend the greater? How can the drop of water judge the ocean? How can the fragment explain the whole? The universe is ruled by wondrous laws to which I pay constant tribute, for they were conceived by perfect wisdom. They make no mistakes. Sometimes it will seem to you that there is injustice because you only know part of the story. When you see the whole of the story, you will judge your opinion. You cannot, whilst in earthly life, with its short span, understand infinity. You cannot know anything of compensation or retribution. You have no means of appreciating the vast richness, beauty, and wonder of a spirit life which has no means of offering you any comparisons with that what you already know. How then can it be explained to those whose judgments must be limited, whose vision must be restricted, what the other side of the picture is? If you have children born because the physical apparatus is constructed by the parents, then surely it must be apparent that whatever is in the physical make-up of the parents must go into the child's structure. Thus, the sins of the parents are visited on the children, but the child is, by virtue of its birth, a part of the Great Spirit. It has a divine heritage, a latent, infinite divinity that can outweigh all physical disadvantages. Matter is not superior to spirit. Matter is the servant. Spirit is the master. Spiritual growth is a slow but certain process. Spiritual perception and understanding can come only when the soul is ready. To some, the truth that we have to preach must fall on deaf ears. It was always so. When the soul is touched, it will be ready to appreciate truths that are waiting for it. You cannot place yourself in the position of the Great Spirit pronouncing judgment. Birth, caesarean, and time of. It alters only the time of your entry into your world. It does not alter the time when the spirit has started at the moment of conception to begin to express itself. Epilepsy. Can you tell us what causes someone to become or be an epileptic? There is a disturbance in the brain which makes it impossible for it to register and to have the correct stimuli for the mind of the individual. Question: can it be cured? Of course, every disease can be cured. There is no such thing as an incurable disease. There are only people who could be incurable. Problems of healing. Question: some people can be healed by mediums and others are not. Are they different kinds of cases regarded from the point of view of the evolution of their souls? No. If they are to pass into my world, there is no healer in your world who can prevent their passing. Question: but some who go to healers would otherwise pass on? A few days more or less. What are they in eternity? Question: does not that make healing rather unnecessary? No, because to express service is to express the Great Spirit. Much of your sickness and disease is not due to the evolution of the soul, but because, in ignorance, man lives contrary to the law. It is true that he lives contrary to the law because his soul has not reached the state of evolution where he understands the law. When your soul has so expressed itself in evolution that it is one with the law, there is no sickness then. Question: how does spiritual healing through a medium differ from magnetic healing by a medium? They are quite different. Magnetic healing is dependent on the radiations of the medium's own psychic powers. Spiritual healing is dependent upon the instrument being attuned to the vibrations of the spirit, so that rays which are normally beyond the range of the world of matter can be sent through the medium. Pain and suffering. Pain and suffering are regarded as miseries. They are not. They have divine parts to play in the evolution of the individual. What you have to do is to help those that are brought to you. If it is an evolved person, try to comfort the individual with the evidence that can be obtained about the reality of the afterlife, that love, like life, continues to survive. If it is a sick person, the healing is the demonstration of a power at work for which there is no material explanation. If it is someone who has lost his way, guidance can be provided. Why some respond and others do not? Every happening has its purpose. There are no accidents or coincidences, only planned operations, laws of cause and effect at work. At some stage in human life, the Great Spirit provides his children with an opportunity not only of finding themselves, but of achieving self-realization. To do so, the soul has to be touched. Now, if the soul is not touched, the power of the Spirit cannot work. If a cure is achieved and the soul is not touched, then the healing has failed in its purpose also. The healing will succeed only when the patient is spiritually ready and touched, because then there is the quickening of the soul. Otherwise, it is a purely physical reflex action. Success may be temporary or permanent, but what is vital is the effect on the patient's spiritual nature. No hope. The story of every potential healer and medium follows a similar pattern. They reach the stage that when they feel that nothing materially offers any hope, it is then that the soul becomes ready to receive the influx of power and inspiration which will enable the owner to begin to fulfill himself or herself. Cases where healing doesn't work. Of course, it is sad, but it is sad for them. You cannot cure them all. There are some who will never be cured in your world. They are paying karmic debts and have lessons to learn. Healing will not touch them. That is why I say, do the best you can. You are there to be available. What happens after you have done healing is not your responsibility. You have to provide the best conditions to be the purest channel. Reach out to the highest you can attain. That is your responsibility. But remember, you are helping souls to find themselves that otherwise would not have done so. How can a healer help? Your world is full of millions of people who do not know what they are there for, who they are, what it is they must achieve whilst they are incarnate on earth. You can help them to realize that they are spirits with bodies, that the real individual is the deathless spirit, that the spirit is there to gain the experience to equip it for its larger life in our world. That is the most important thing that you can do. You demonstrate that the Great Spirit, the apex of love and wisdom and compassion, provides everyone with the opportunity to find himself or herself and begin to live as all people in your world should live, not in superstition, ignorance or darkness, but in the full light of knowledge, with serenity and confidence as their constant companions. Helping others. Help wherever the opportunity rises, and know that you are fulfilling yourself, which is the purpose of your being on earth. Why do some mediums become ill? Mediums cannot be exempt from natural law, which encompasses all without exception and without deviation. If there is ill health, there are two reasons. One is that there is not the harmony between spirit, mind and body which produces the wholeness that is health. The other possibility is a karmic condition, which means that the soul has yet to achieve progress on earth that cannot be achieved elsewhere because of what has happened in a previous existence. In an ideal world, mediums would be ideal people, but you are not living in an ideal world. Ill health in a healer. Question: should a temporary halt be called to healing work if a healer becomes ill? No. Only unless they are in such a pitiable condition it makes it impossible for the power of the Spirit to operate. There are many excellent healers who suffer from poor health. Because they are transmitters, as long as they have the power to transmit, they will have the power flow through them. Healing as part of a plan. Question: in cases where the patient creates the circumstances continuously which create the illness, is it part of the plan that healing should be given again and again? What we must do is to help souls who come to us. What they do afterwards is their responsibility. If only the body is made well, then the healing has failed. It is the soul which must be touched and quickened into activity. If they have not learned the implications as to how they should order their lives as a result of the healing, then that must be accounted a failure. They should realize that the power that has been at work is intended not only to heal bodies, but to heal minds, so that there is an understanding of what life is all about. It takes time. Fulfillment. If you can help just one soul to find itself, if you comfort only one mourner, if you heal only one sick person, then the whole of your earthly life has been justified. How privileged you are to be aware of the tremendous power that is around and about you, that enfolds you, guards you, directs you, and ensures that you will continue to unfold your latent divinity and the gifts which are your cherished possessions. Becoming a healer. Question: what happens when you become the channel as a healer? The life force, that is, the power of the Spirit, pours through you and makes contact with the soul of the patient to charge that battery and establish the harmony which has been disrupted by whatever conditions caused the disease. The essence of healing is that the healer should have suffered and have compassion for the sufferer who comes to him. It is the only way that the laws work. Question: should a healer be concerned with the same thing time and time again if necessary? You must not be in a position where you refuse to help. A soul asks for help, and it is no part of the healer's province to lay down laws as to how it should be given. The healer's task is to heal. If the sufferer's soul is touched, the enlightenment will come. If it is not touched, then at least you have made a body better than it was before, even if only for a short time. You must do the best you can and never refuse help when it is sought. The healer must be available. If a recipient misbehaves later and induces more difficulties, that is his responsibility. Question: when is a soul ready? As to what constitutes readiness, the answer is the gold that can only be found after it has gone through the process of eliminating the dross. If earthly life was a monotone, if there was only light and no darkness, joy and no pain, food and no hunger, you would not appreciate its value. It is life's polarity that brings you an understanding of its purpose and possibilities. Question: what would healers need that they have not now to be able to treat patients by psychic surgery? You must not think in terms only of achieving demonstrable physical results with healing. Healing is primarily a spiritual happening. The object of healing is to touch the soul of the patient. If the patient's soul is right, the mind will be right and the body will be right. Thus, healing leads to a correct alignment of spirit, mind and body, so that they function in harmony. That is what health means: wholeness, harmony. To remove a growth is not the objective. It is to touch the soul. You can have cancer of the spirit in that sense. Selfishness and all the wrong growths persist within. And until these are eradicated, there can be no true spiritual progress. It is the spirit that must be paramount in all life. Until the spirit rules, there will never be harmony, health, happiness, or the fullness of living.